Okay, let's dive right into this. We are completely dismantling the surface level reading of Sam Raimi's recent thriller, Send Help. If you've watched it, you probably walked away with this distinct, unsettling pit in your stomach. Well, in this explainer, we're going to look at exactly why the film's ending isn't some triumphant victory lap, but actually, it's a meticulously crafted crime scene.
So, we need to start with a really hard truth here. This is not a simple revenge story where a downtrodden employee finally snaps. Most people watch this and they read it as a classic, good for her revenge flick, the ultimate underdog eating the rich. But the film is literally mocking you for having that exact surface level reading. Just between us, our protagonist Linda, she was never the victim, not even for a second.
Now let's look at the actual paradigm shift taking place. This movie is actually a dark, incredibly structural metaphor for ascending the corporate ladder. Because to make it to the very top, you don't just have to beat the boss, you have to become the boss. What you're actually watching is a hostile corporate takeover completely disguised as a survival thriller.
And the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the island didn't fundamentally change who Linda is. Linda was always a predator in hibernation. She already possessed all the necessary skills, the mindset. She was really just waiting for permission to be absolutely ruthless. The island simply removed the HR department. It took away all those pesky societal rules that kept her in check.
All right, moving on to Act 1, Instinct and the Zero-Sum Game. Let's see exactly how the movie brilliantly tricks you into sympathizing with Linda before pulling the rug out and showing her true tool set. The first act honestly does some incredibly heavy lifting. We see Linda get passed over for a major promotion by Bradley, who, let's face it, is the ultimate nepotism baby from hell. Then she's deeply humiliated on the plane when Donovan plays her old Survivor audition tape for everyone to see. But these moments, especially that tape, they aren't just cheap jokes about her being awkward. No, they are explicitly foreshadowing her immense competence. She already knows exactly how to survive. And then, the catalyst hits. The plane crashes, instantly granting her that dark permission she's been waiting for. When she stabs Donovan to secure a seat, the camera framing really tries to sell it to us as a moment of blind panic, maybe self-defense, but let's be real here. It is pure instinct. In a zero-sum game, Linda realizes right then and there that she is completely willing to subtract the competition to secure her own position. This brings us to Act 2, Survival as Management Training. Because as we transition to the island, survival morphs directly into what can only really be described as intense, psychotic management training. The script introduces this toxic tango that perfectly mirrors a totally dysfunctional modern workplace. On one side, we've got Bradley's absolute corporate uselessness. He's the classic idea guy who is suddenly trapped in a physical situation that strictly requires execution. On the other side, Linda brings the raw execution skills. I mean, she builds the shelter, she finds the fresh water, she does literally all the actual labor. And this brilliantly illustrates the passive killer dynamic. Remember when Bradley is being a total jerk and Linda just completely abandons him for 2 days? She withholds water just long enough to break him, right? Just letting him dehydrate until he finally collapses. She needs his absolute submission. And this perfectly mirrors the movie's most critical piece of dialogue, her confession that she let her abusive husband drive drunk. She didn't actively murder him. She just created the environment where he would die. She's running the exact same test on Bradley here. Now, midway through Act 2, almost everyone misses a glaring visual clue. Seriously, ask yourself, why does Linda look like she's at a luxury glamping retreat? She's suddenly producing these incredible, elaborate meals. Her hair is remarkably clean. Meanwhile, Bradley is literally rotting away in the dirt like a castaway cosplayer. We're supposed to think it's because she's just that naturally good at surviving the wild, but that is entirely wrong. Actually, this is Economics 101, and it brilliantly sets up the third act reveal. She hides the fully stocked beach house she found on the other side of the island. She has access to a shower, a fridge, air conditioning, but she chooses to come back and sleep in the dirt. Why? Well, because if she tells him about the house, the hierarchy resets. Inside that house, he's the wealthy boss, and she's just the employee again. Out in the dirt, keeping him desperate keeps him controllable. She deliberately creates artificial scarcity. Now that is a true terrifying CEO mindset. Okay, Act 3, the ultimate hostile takeover. This phase kicks into high gear the very moment Zuri arrives and completely disrupts Linda's carefully constructed narrative. When we break down the boardroom reality of it all, we realize Zuri isn't an obstacle to actual survival, she's an obstacle to the story Linda is crafting. Zuri is a witness. Zuri actually remembers Linda's name, which is something Bradley never bothered to do. But ironically, in Linda's twisted worldview, that kindness is a fatal liability. And then, when Linda murders the boat captain in cold blood while he's trying to save Zuri, the entire genre of the film flips on its head. We aren't watching a disaster survival movie anymore. We're watching a slasher flick, and Linda is the one wearing the hockey mask. She's actively eliminating anyone who threatens her new corporate structure. This leads us to the final confrontation between Linda and Bradley, which is just packed with brutal corporate symbolism. We really need to unpack this rapidly because honestly, the director is practically screaming these metaphors at the audience. First, right during the brutal choreography of their fight, Linda literally swallows Zuri's engagement ring. She is physically consuming and internalizing the ultimate symbol of status, marriage, and wealth. Then comes the shotgun bluff, which is her absolute signature move. She points the gun, Bradley begs, and she just lets him take it, only for him to realize it's completely empty. This perfectly mirrors handing the car keys to her drunk husband. She feigns vulnerability, surrenders an empty weapon, and basically gives toxic men the illusion of control so they just hang themselves with it. And finally, the coup de grace, using a 9-iron golf club to beat the boss to death. I mean, golf is the ultimate historical symbol of the exclusionary boys' club that always kept Linda out of the C-suite, right? So by using that specific club to kill him, she isn't destroying the toxic corporate system, she's violently, forcibly entering it. So that brings us to the true CEO mindset. Let's look at the aftermath and what this deeply unsettling ending actually represents for our main character. You see, Linda didn't kill Bradley because she strictly had to for survival. She killed him because he was redundant. Out there on the island, she realized she was far, far better at being Bradley than he ever was. She took his manipulation, his selfishness, his cruelty, and she completely optimized it. And this dark realization has the fan community completely divided right now. They're debating a massive question. If she is capable of murdering an innocent boat captain in cold blood to protect her secret, did she actually play an active role in her husband's death? Like, did she cut his brake line or loosen a lug nut rather than just passively handing him the keys? The film leaves it super ambiguous, but her actions strongly suggest she's always been a killer who just needed a ladder to climb. Raimi really gives us a cynical masterpiece here. He serves up all the classic happy ending tropes. The survivor escapes, gets rich, drives off into the sunset, but he entirely strips out the morality. It totally satisfies the lizard brain that desperately wants revenge on a terrible boss, but it deeply nauseates our human empathy. It proves that competence without morals is utterly terrifying, and Raimi, he never lets us off the hook. I'll leave you with this chilling thought to take away from this explainer today. As she drives off in her luxury car, just singing along to the radio while the public views her as this incredible hero, we realize the absolute darkest truth of her arc. She didn't just survive, she rebranded. In a modern corporate dystopia, monetizing your own trauma might just be the final, triumphant step of the journey. Makes you wonder, what would you do if the HR department suddenly vanished?